It's Chris, the dating doc. And what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about ENTJ, aka the Commander. It's a continuation of our Myers-Briggs type indicator series. Check it out. So yes, we are continuing our Myers-Briggs series. And this one is interesting because I used to actually identify, or I used to, quote unquote, used to be this personality indicator, which is ENTJ. There's actually two. There's ENTJ-A and ENTJ-T. But let's go into ENTJ. So ENTJ, also known as the Commander or a Commander, is someone with the extroverted, intuitive thinking and judging personality traits. They are decisive people who love momentum and accomplishment. They gather information to construct their creative visions, but rarely hesitate for long before acting on them. Okay, so the thing about why I was an ENTJ and now I'm an ENFJ has to do more with the fact that I've developed a little bit more, I've traded in a little bit more empathy and understanding and patience for that hard-charging, decisive decision making. So it's not to say it's mutually exclusive. I'm still a decision maker, but I have also grown to be a little bit more of a, hey, let me pace myself, let me understand my environment. But yeah, let's keep going here. So Steve Jobs actually says something that resonates with ENTJ because he is one. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. That's from Steve Jobs. Commanders are natural born leaders. People with this personality trait embody the gifts of charisma and confidence and project authority in a way that draws crowds together behind a common goal, like I alluded to. However, commanders are also characterized by an often ruthless level of rationality, using their drive, determination, and sharp minds to achieve whatever end they're set for themselves. Perhaps it is best as they make up only 3% of the population, lest they overwhelm the more timid and sensitive personality types that make up much of the rest of the world. But we have commanders to thank for many of the business and institutions we take for granted every day. And yes, again, I feel kind of like I'm going back to my old elementary or driving by my old high school because, again, this was my older MBTI, Myers-Briggs type indicator. If there's anything commanders love, it's a good challenge, big or small. And they firmly believe that they have been given enough time and resources they can achieve any goal. This quality makes people the commander personality type brilliant entrepreneurs, and their ability to think strategically and hold a long-term focus while executing each step of their plans with determination and precision makes them powerful business leaders. This determination is often a self-fulfilling prophecy as commanders push their goals through sheer willpower where others might give up and move on. And because they have that extroverted nature, it means they're likely to push everyone else right along with them, achieving spectacular results in the process. At the negotiating table, be it in a corporate environment or buying a car, commanders are dominant, relentless, and unforgiving. And you see that'll clue you into some of the weaknesses later on. This isn't because they're cold-hearted or vicious per se. It's more that commander personalities generally enjoy the challenge, the battle of wits, and the repartee that comes from this environment. And if other side can't keep up, there's no reason for commanders to fold on their own core tenet of ultimate victory. If there's anyone commanders respect, it's someone who is able to stand up to them, intellectually at least, who is able to act with precision and quality equal to their own. Okay, keep that in mind for dating. Commander personalities have a particular skill in recognizing the talents of others, and this helps both their team building efforts, since no one, no matter how brilliant, can do everything alone, and to keep commanders from displaying too much arrogance and condescension. However, they also have a particular skill in calling out others' failures with a chilling degree of insensitivity. And this is where commanders really start to run into trouble. With that said, emotional expression isn't the strong suit of any analyst type, but commanders distance from their emotions, especially in public. And it's going to be felt directly by a much broader swath of people. Especially in a professional environment, commanders will simply crush the sensitivities of those they view as inefficient, incompetent, or lazy. Now, I'm gonna take a pause here to just talk about an example. The fact that the archetype is called commander, aka, as we're talking about ENTJ. I have literally had commanders that had zero emotional intelligence, but they were great at achieving goals. I noticed that the young soldiers, the impressionable soldiers that maybe grew up on watching action movies, war movies, G.I. Joe, video games, etc., they almost in a way worshipped this kind of personality trait because it embodied almost a caricature of a military video game character. Now, the more seasoned veterans did not appreciate that all it was all about the commander's goals, because there wasn't that sense of empathy, of listening. And we had some soldiers that were mental health issues. So being that there's already issues with mental health, okay, they may seem like they're lazy. They may seem like they lack focus or incompetent, when in reality, they weren't motivated for some other reasons. But that commander who embodied the worst side of ENTJ crushed those folks, basically made them feel less than dirt. And so in a way, yes, they know how to build a team. ENTJs know how to build a team towards a goal. But it's that extra layer of finding out, hey, what's really going on? Let's really dig down and find out what's happening with the soldier that's struggling, instead of just having this very ruthless judgment for those that were, quote unquote, not on their level. So going back to that, we're going to talk a little bit more about ENTJ. Stay tuned. Got to hear this one. So commanders are true powerhouses. They cultivate an image of being larger than life, and often enough they are. But it's kind of like the story I told you about. They need to remember, though, that their stature comes not just from their own actions, but from the actions of the team that props them up. And it's important to recognize the contributions, talents, needs, and especially the emotional perspective of their support network. Even if they have to adopt a fake it till you make it mentality, if commanders are able to combine an emotionally healthy focus alongside their many strengths, they will be rewarded with deep, satisfying relationships and all the challenging victories they can handle. So we're going to go into now the strengths and weaknesses of a commander. Commanders are efficient. Commanders see inefficiency not just as a problem in its own right, but as something that pulls time and energy away from their future goals. An elaborate sabotage consisting of irrationality and laziness. People with the commander personality type will root out such behavior wherever they go. Energetic, rather than finding this process taxing, commanders are energized by it, genuinely enjoying leading their teams forward as they implement their plans and goals. Again, something that I hear a lot in military is implementation of a plan towards a goal. It's the means and ends. Self-confident. Commanders couldn't do this if they were plagued by self-doubt. They trust their abilities, make known their opinions, and believe in their capacities as leaders. They're strong-willed. Nor do they give up when the going gets tough. Commander personalities strive to achieve their goals, but really nothing is quite as satisfying to them as rising to the challenge of each obstacle in the run to the finish line. They're strategic thinkers. Commanders exemplify the difference between moment-to-moment crisis management and navigating the challenges and steps of a bigger plan, and are known for examining every angle of a problem and not just for solving momentary issues, but moving the whole project forward with their solutions. And of course, charismatic and inspiring. These qualities combine to create individuals who are able to inspire and invigorate others, who people actually want to be their leaders. And this in turn helps commanders to achieve their often ambitious goals that can never be finished alone. Captain America is a good ENTJ one if you really want to think about that way. But what are their weaknesses? At worst, ENTJs, aka commanders, they are stubborn and dominant. Sometimes all this confidence and willpower can go too far, and commanders are all too capable of digging in their heels, trying to win every single debate and pushing their vision and theirs alone. See that with politicians. Intolerant. They have that it's my way or the highway attitude. People with the commander personality type are notoriously unsupportive of any idea that distracts from their primary goals, and even more so, ideas based on emotional considerations. Commanders won't hesitate a second to make that fact clear to those around them. Again, I'll take a quick pause. Again, I've seen commanders that will not celebrate anyone's birthday. They will not emphasize to a readiness non-commissioned officer, which is a member in the military that would be in charge of the calendar, or a training non-commissioned officer to tell them, hey, look, post soldiers' birthdays and let's actually celebrate them. The worst part of a commander, they don't care about that, but if it happens to be something that pushes towards their goals, they're all about that. Impatient. Some people need more time to think than others. An intolerable delay to quick thinking commanders. They may misinterpret contemplation as stupidity or disinterest in their haste. A terrible mistake for a leader to make. Again, that's ignorance through pride. Arrogance. Commander personalities respect quick thoughts and firm convictions, their own qualities, and look down on those that don't match up. This relationship is a challenge for most other personality types who are perhaps not timid in their own right, but will seem to beside overbearing commanders. This again is going to go into how they deal with relationships. Poor handling of emotions. All this bluster alongside the assumed supremacy of rationalism makes commanders distant from their own emotional expression, and sometimes downright scornful of others, which goes into the arrogance. People with this personality type often trample others' feelings, inadvertently hurting their partners and friends, especially in emotionally charged situations. And last but not least, on weaknesses, cold and ruthless. Their obsession with efficiency and unwavering belief in the merits of rationalism, especially professionally, makes commanders incredibly insensitive in pursuing their goals, dismissing personal circumstances, sensitivities, and preferences as irrational and irrelevant. Oof. It's tough reading those last because I did a lot of self-reflection and I wanted to prevent myself from becoming someone who's arrogant, who doesn't really consider other people's ideas, or if there's any sort of hesitation, I think that they're being slow instead of the fact that they're actually analyzing and thinking, maybe even better than this former commander ENTJ. So now we're going to segue into romantic relationships for an ENTJ. Stay tuned. All right, this is the Dating Doc, so we got to talk about romantic relationships and how that all fits into ENTJs. As in other areas of their lives, commanders approach dating relationships with a set of goals and a plan to achieve them, and proceed to do so with impressive energy and enthusiasm. People with a commander personality type are in to win and will gladly take leading roles in relationships from the start, assuming personal responsibility for how smoothly things go and working actively to ensure a mutually rewarding experience. Romantic relationships are serious business, and commanders are in it for the long haul. We cannot succeed unless, when we choose wisely. This sense of personal responsibility means that commanders put a lot of energy into their relationships, and they show their creativity by always having something new on the agenda to keep things interesting, especially in the dating phase. At the same time, though, commanders' personalities keep their eyes on a long term, and if they determine that a relationship is heading towards a dead end, they will cut their losses and move on to what will seem like a partner that is worthwhile, and have an abrupt end to the attention they've been receiving. This occasional ruthlessness with personal relationships is commanders' primary weakness, and if they aren't careful, they can develop quite the reputation. Sensing others' feelings and emotions will never be a comfortable skill for commanders, but it is critical that they work consciously to develop it, both for their partner's sake and for their own healthy emotional expression. If they don't, they risk dominating and overruling their partners, and this insensitivity can easily break a relationship, especially early on. So I've seen this again. I'm going to use my military life as experience. I have seen some driven leaders, folks that have more rank and more medals, but are on their third divorce. They just didn't have the patience. I knew for a fact that the way they were at work was the way they were at home. And I'd be curious to know if they're on their fourth divorce or, they're just going to die alone with cat food. Confidence thrives on unselfish performance. But as all goes well in the dating phase and the future is deemed viable, people with the commander personality type continue to impress with their creative energy. Their authentic confidence makes commanders' sex life dynamic, to say the least, and they often push to explore new ways to express affection with imaginative enthusiasm. Yet commanders tend to have these innovations planned in advance, with some structure and predictability to their sex lives, leaving the true spontaneity to those less organized personality types. You see, there's beauty in not being as organized. Commanders are extremely growth-oriented and will seize any opportunity to improve themselves, listening to and acting on criticisms, so long as they are logical ones and always striving to improve their knowledge. At the same time, commanders expect this type from their partners, and it is surprising to them that others don't always share this attitude. Still more surprising to commander personalities is others' active efforts to avoid these tense situations. Commanders in particular would do well to remember that their approach is just one angle of a multifaceted spectrum of alternatives. While commanders may view criticism as the most efficient route, and they're often right, they should bear in mind that their partners may be more interested in emotional support and growth, an area of self-improvement that commanders themselves too often avoid. As with other analyst types, commanders' best matches are with other intuitive types, which again makes sense. I love my INFJs, shout out to INFJs, with one or two opposing traits to create more balance in the relationship. Mature commanders are able to recognize and adapt to the needs of their partners and know that even the most rational individuals have emotional needs that must be met. Fortunately, the same logic that dismisses emotions is able to recognize that a conciliatory attitude can be the best tool to get the job done. With their strong senses of responsibility and dedication, people with a commander personality type are sure to make this effort, resulting in long-lasting, satisfying relationships. Yes, if they are goal-minded, their relationship matters. And if part of that goal is to have a little bit more emotional understanding and patience and learning that language of what it means to improve your conflict resolution skills, then commanders have met their goal. So yes, next section here, we're going to wrap it up and talk a little bit more about ENTJ. Stay tuned. Armed with powerful intellect and strategic thinking, commanders can often overcome or outmaneuver obstacles that seem unbeatable to most. At the same time, their many quirks, such as often unconstrained rationalism, lead to many misunderstandings. Those misunderstandings end here. The irony, I'm misunderstanding the word misunderstanding. But what you've heard so far is just an introduction. Okay, there's a lot more to learn about the commander personality types. Okay, so if you've heard this, right, and you thought, oh man, wait, this might be me. I might be embracing the disconnection that is a commander, or the connection to your desires and goals and objectives. Okay, but remember that commander's strength can often be their weakness, where their arrogance can be a defense mechanism that can lead down a lonely, inefficient path. Okay, so it's important that you gain insight if you are an ENTJ, if you're one of these driven folks who's all about the goals. All right, so I'm going to leave it with this. Okay, first off, by the way, any of these breakdowns you can get off 16personalities.com. I just kind of remix a little bit, use examples and also my analysis. So ENTJ. When I think of ENTJ and who would make great matches, I often think of INFJs, like I talked about. It is definitely the yin to the yang. You can really teach each other. For example, the INFJ can teach the ENTJ a bit more patience and also a little bit more humility if they're on the ugly side, the weaknesses of ENTJ. ENTJ can then teach the INFJ a lot more self-confidence, a lot more of a focused mindset. And again, this is if INFJs are showing more of their quote-unquote ugly side, their weaknesses of being too timid or not knowing what they really want. So where you meet in the middle is by having this combination of extroverted and intuitive. And what you end up getting is a true team. Now, the inverse of that would be having two ENTJs who have not worked on the fact that they need to depower their type A side and learn each other. If both, everything considered, if both are arrogant, if both are knuckleheads that are just wanting to make their point known, especially through rational, logical arguments, they're going to tire out. Ironically, their rational-based discussions and debates and arguments will emotionally tire them out because they emotionally did not work on themselves. So that's my breakdown of ENTJ. Let me know, find me on Instagram. Feel free to contact me however you find me. Let me know you're listening. It's I give a shout out to those that find me on Instagram, send me a DM, and then they may mention maybe some sort of part of a podcast episode, something that made them laugh, or just advice that resonated with them. I do this. This is a passion project. Okay, and I don't mean project as a small thing because it's a full-fledged business. We just had our speed dating event this past Friday, which really went well. But this is my passion. And it would be nice to hear from you all. So find me on Instagram, TheDatingDoc. If not, website, TheDatingDoc.com. You're getting it how it is, unedited. I'm sure you can definitely tell it's unedited. But I love you guys. I love your support. Appreciate it. This is Dating Doc signing out.